You're listening to The Power Project, and I'm your host, Brandy Vogt. It is my goal each week to inspire and empower you with stories of women that are living their purpose-filled lives, stepping into their power, and following God's call on their life. My guest today, Kayla Eggenberger, is a strategic intervention coach that is also someone that I get to call a friend. If today's episode sounds a little like some friends catching up on old times, then that's basically what it was. But she's got some great takeaways for you. So if you are a goal-oriented woman that believes that you were created for great things, but you're struggling with how to implement that in your life, you need to listen today. If you feel stuck, Kayla's your girl to get you unstuck. So stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to The Power Project. I am excited to share with you the story today from my good friend Kayla. So Kayla and I actually have known each other for years and years and years, and we went to elementary school together. However, we didn't see each other for quite some time, and a little twist of fate actually reconnected us. But say hi to my friend Kayla Eggenberger. Hey, Kayla.
Hey, Brandy.
How are you today?
I'm awesome. I'm so excited to be here talking with you. I'm such a blessing to get to speak with you and get to talk about coaching. I'm just excited.
So I am a firm believer that all the people brought into our lives are brought for purpose, and that no one's brought into our lives by sheer accident. But I do think it's really interesting that, gosh, how many years do you think we went without seeing each other?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. Cause I'm thinking like since around the time we started middle school.
Yeah. I think you came into the restaurant I worked at in high school, and like, I think you ate there, but I don't think we saw each other like post graduation.
It's funny. I think I may have seen you once in a Bed Bath and Beyond. It's just so funny. It's like, I feel like every maybe 7 years or something, like I would see you and we'd be like, hi, but it wasn't really like a connection thing. But yeah, it's, we didn't really connect until recently.
So last year, Kayla and I both, little did we know, we're at a personal development conference in Dallas. It was April of 2017. And we were there, like it was a Success Live conference, and like the big boys of personal development were there. And it was Mel Robbins and Brendan Burchard and Lewis Hose and like the big boys of the big boys. And I'm there with a few of my business partners, and it was amazing. It was a life-changing day. Like I have an entire chapter about that in my book, about that day. But I was in the bathroom in line waiting forever at the ladies' bathroom. And I look up and I recognize a face that wasn't someone with me, and it was Kayla. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what on earth? Like Kayla and I are in, we went to like gifted and talented class together in elementary school, and we're in a bathroom at this Success conference. So fast forward, I said hi, you said hi, like we were like, oh yeah, let's do lunch, let's hang out sometime. And what were you thinking like at that moment?
Honestly, I was a little bit mortified because I was in the bathroom lounge pumping breast milk from it was so funny. I snuck out to do that, like, thinking, not knowing it was going to be over, or not over, but that segment wasn't going to be over and everybody was going to come out and then be standing in line. I now see it as such a like fortuitous event because I was able to connect with you, but it was a little awkward.
Don't you dare be mortified, because honestly, like the only thought that crossed my mind was, thank Jesus mine are older and I don't have to go pump in a bathroom anymore.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was awesome to reconnect with you, but you know how it is in those situations. You never know if you're really going to or not. Like you never know if you're really going to have lunch or meet up with that person. It's something that you just kind of say. But at the same time, like I did have this feeling that, this could really turn into something. Like this could be, because the whole spirit of Success Live was amazing and full of possibility. So it did seem, it seemed like a really like kind of like icing on the cake. I was like, like that was really cool.
Yeah. So I went into it, like a few months before I had really started this journey of finding my purpose and my calling and what the other thing was, that God wanted me to do. And so and I knew that day, like I knew that I had a voice that I needed to use. And I knew that I needed to be speaking into others, but I had no idea what that looked like. In my world, it had looked like a preacher, and well, I'm not a preacher. So, that day I knew like, okay, like I felt the tug. I knew that this was going to turn into something more. And I was like, I need to be doing what Mel Robbins is doing. Mm-hmm. And I have this like secret talent to where that no one's off limits to me. Like every single person is like approachable and attainable. And so I don't know. I see people as human beings. Like if they can do it, by gosh, I can do it too. So fast forward to, that was April. We went our separate ways. We didn't have lunch. We didn't see each other. And before I get to this part, had you been on like a long-term personal development journey at that point, or were you kind of new in it?
It was pretty long-term, but it hadn't really, it's kind of something that snowballed over time. So, so it kind of started out like, it started out probably a decade ago, but it had snowballed and it was very strong at that point whenever we met. Like I was really into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's all part of the journey, like of like really being open and willing at the right time. So fast forward to December, and Kayla sends a message and says, hi, I'm a personal coach. I think that's what it said. Like I'm a personal coach. And I just wanted to know if you have anyone that could benefit from my services. And this is what I do. And sent this nice message about what she had going on. So I clicked on her website and I'm like, that's awesome. Like I am so proud of her. She has stepped into this space. She's owned it. But little did Kayla know, I had been in the works, like planning a leadership retreat, like a personal development retreat. And I was planning to launch it in January. And so I was sitting in the middle of the state football game. Our high school team had won the state championship that day. And so immediately I responded with, that's awesome. I'm doing a retreat. I would love to partner up with you. Would you like to come? It doesn't pay well. And by doesn't pay well, I mean at all. And Kayla obliged me. And so Kayla was part of the initial launch of the Power Project that we launched January of this year. And we did a personal development retreat. We talked about self-care. Kayla talked about her message, which I'm going to let her get into in just a bit. I spoke about purpose and ownership. We did yoga. And literally, this is not me like bragging on look what we did. It was one of the best weekends of my life. And I think did you feel the same way, Kayla?
Oh my gosh. It was so amazing. Like it was so far beyond anything I could have even imagined. I didn't really know what to expect from it. But it was amazing. I felt like the exact right people were there. There was just such a powerful synergy that I remember at the end of it, it's like nobody wanted to leave.
Yes. Yeah, it was like you said, it was like every single person there was there for a reason. Like not everyone knew everyone. Basically, like most of the people knew me. There were people there that didn't know me, but none of the people really in the group knew each other. It was this hodgepodge of different people in my life really that were there. And it was so beautiful. My cup was filled so much by your message and Heather's message and Megan's message, but the fellowship between the women, the dinner that we had the night before and the location, it was this beautiful, amazing, like rustic luxury dude ranch is the best way to explain it. But I just went away knowing that, God had orchestrated this. You and you were supposed to be pumping your boobs at the time. You were pumping your boobs in the bathroom, and we were meant to be brought back together. Like we were in the gifted and talented class together for a reason in elementary school. And so I love getting to pour into others and have you by my side with that. I can't wait for the next one.
Me either. It was so awesome. And exactly like you, I was totally inspired by everyone else that spoke. energizing. And I think one of the reasons that it was so powerful is that it was a space where I felt like as women, we could just kind of let ourselves be ourselves and not have to pretend to be anybody else, not pretend to have all of our stuff together, and just be really open and honest about like life and what's going on with us. And at the same time, feel refreshed and revived. So it was really amazing.
I know. I'm getting like the warm fuzzies right now because I'm thinking about like the authenticity of it and the fact that we were able to talk about what we struggle with as women, and we didn't have, nobody was wearing a mask. I mean, everyone was truly, genuinely themselves and raw and real. And y'all, like, we walked away from this retreat. We made a sex pact. I'm not going to give you all the details, but I mean, there was nothing off the table at this retreat.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Like, go on some more.
Right. I want to know. No, I mean, I was there, but I'm sure other people want to know. Inquiring minds.
So tell me, how long have you been in the personal coaching space?
Okay. So, just focusing on coaching, honestly, for probably just a couple of years now, around the time that I sent you that message, was really whenever I decided to fully step into it. The kind of funny thing is that I've kind of always just naturally been doing it my whole life. But I never really took ownership of it. Like you were kind of talking about earlier, I never took ownership of it, because I thought that I was too young. And I thought, well, who's going to hire a 20-year-old life coach, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I totally I feel the exact same way. Like, I feel like I've been speaking into women and telling women they can do it all my life.
Yeah.
And like you, I felt like I lacked experience or wisdom or age. Like,
yeah.
I'm sitting here like I'm processing, I'm thinking, I've always wanted to be older. This is crazy. I feel like you're an old soul like I am. Did you ever just feel like you didn't want to be a kid, you wanted to be older, like you just always wanted to be older?
Yes. The entire time I was a kid, I wanted to be an adult. And even as an adult now, people talk about being a kid again. And I'm like, no, I like being an adult.
Yeah. Like, I cannot wait to turn 40. Like, I'm so excited for, like, my 40th birthday is planned out in my head. It's going to be amazing. You're going to get an invite.
Yay.
And I think that so much of that was because I felt like I needed the credentials, you know, to be able to do this. But the honest to goodness is that, you know, God gave us what we need to do what it is that he's called us to do. We just have to say yes and be willing.
Absolutely. I spent a lot of time basically just like trying to ignore that and trying to just like find another, like I went and got fancy degrees, you know, I mean, different things like that, trying to basically avoid, I guess, if you want to call it that, avoid what I was really called to do. And then probably about 10 years ago or close to it, I decided to, you know, start my own business and do mobile personal training, which the cool thing about that was that it gave me the in and kind of the venue to do some of the coaching with, you know, under the disguise of something else. And so, yeah, but it really actually did take me a long time to fully step into just coaching. And I think that's one of the reasons that I identify so well with my clients, is because they struggle with that same thing.
So tell me about the personal training. Like, tell me about that journey and how you got into that.
Okay. So, whenever I went to college, I like just totally blew past the freshman 15 and went straight to the freshman 30. And, and so, you know, I realize now looking back that it was kind of a depressive thing. Like, it was just a place in my life where I really was I went from kind of being a big fish in a small pond to being a very small fish in a very large pond. And I just didn't deal well. I didn't know what to expect. So anyway, fast forward a couple of years, I lost the weight, and I did it initially using, with Weight Watchers. And, I started feeling really great. And I just really was so excited, about being healthy and being fit. And even then, it took me years. Like, once again, it takes a while sometimes to really step into what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
So even then, it took me years to realize that what I really wanted to do was help people live healthier, happier lives. And so anyway, as I continued on my personal development journey that we were talking about, it just got to a point where I was like, trying to figure out like, what am I doing? And I was so confused. And thankfully I had, an almost stranger, a near stranger, kind of talk some sense into me and say something that I will just never forget. He was like, how many people could be helped and could be living better lives if you would just get over yourself?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So this is like a big thing. I think this is when God speaks through people because we're not listening to him. So how much of a stranger was this guy? Like, what was your interaction? Where'd you see him? How'd you meet him?
Okay. So actually he has a podcast. And he had a podcast back whenever like podcasts nobody knew what a podcast was.
Right.
And I listened to him. But I had never spoken to him before. This is the first time I'd ever spoken to this person.
Wow. And so like, did you reach out to him or he reached out to you?
Actually, he was kind of just offering some like free coaching calls, and at that point, I was totally like, not like, I wasn't planning on buying coaching or anything, which I didn't. So that's, and now I wish I had. I'm like, gosh, where could I be if I had,
Right.
Yeah. But honestly, that one conversation, like that one thing that he said, it changed my life. It changed the entire course of my life. I remember walking out, and talking to my husband about it. And then I decided, okay, like I'm starting my own business.
Listen, I had like a chance encounter with a guy in the Apple store. And that is what launched this podcast. I had talked about it for like 8 months. I had all the equipment. I was ready to go. And I just kept putting it off. And literally this guy said, like, he was like, when's your launch date? And this was mid-August. And I said, September 6th. And I, in my mind, I was like, I have things ready. I have recordings. I know what to do. I just have to do it. And if I give myself a date, I'm going to do it. And I wanted like September to be the month of, newness for me. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, September 6th gets me through Labor Day weekend. Everyone's back in the grind of school. So, and I walked out and called my husband telling him about this guy in the Apple store because Casey, if you're listening, I'm giving you mad props here. He said, what are you waiting for? Someone out there needs to hear what you have to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my drop the mic moment. The exact same thing with you and this guy that, like think about the people that need the help and you're not speaking into them. Get out there and do it.
Exactly. I mean, that's actually one of the things that I help my clients with the most is overcoming perfectionism. That's the main thing. And usually it's a situation where we're just so focused on ourselves and we feel like, we don't have everything right. We don't have everything perfect. It's not the perfect time, whatever. And it's just like, God, like, it really hit me like a ton of bricks when he said that because, all of a sudden I was like, man, like, yeah, I've totally lost focus on what I should be focusing on, which is the people that I can help and the people that I serve.
Yeah. So tell me, let's go a little into, go ahead. I want to turn it over and let you basically tell your story here because it's so impactful. And my goal is always to inspire and empower and let people know that you can move past the hard things and you can get past the hard things. So talk about that. And then, we can get into what services you offer and how people can become a Coaching with Kayla client. So go ahead and just give us the spill.
Okay. All right. So I started my personal training business and it really was amazing. It was something that totally like filled me up. It was energizing and I loved it. And I did that for years and, had my first child. And at that point it was awesome because being my own boss, I was able to actually create my own hours. And so I was able to stay home with my daughter a lot. And I was just super blessed in that respect, which I credit personal development and reading and following so many amazing people that are really, living life on their own terms, for that, because I didn't even know that was a possibility earlier on in life. And so, to have that freedom was to know that I could have that freedom and then to create it was amazing. But then in 2014, yes, it's been actually 4 years this month. I found out that I was pregnant. I found out before that. I found out that I was pregnant And then I found out 4 years ago exactly that the baby that I was carrying had a very severe heart defect. And she had a hypoplastic right heart syndrome, and she also had some issues with her kidneys. And so I spent the majority of the last part of 2015 in specialist offices. And there was a treatment plan available. Thankfully, there's these miraculous surgeries that can be done for heart babies that save a lot of their lives, even though they don't completely, cure the problem. They're able to have very full lives. And so that was our expectation. And then when Claire Riley was born on February 14th, so she was my little Valentine's Day baby, it was an awesome day, but it was also a scary day. And 3 days later, unexpectedly, she passed away. They just could not get her stable enough to be able to do the surgeries and to treat her. So, yeah. And so that was obviously a very hard time in my life. But one thing that I will say, or I'll probably say more than one thing, but but one of the things that I will say is that the journey that I have been on, the personal development that I have been on, it really changed how I reacted to that situation. It made such a difference. I saw God show up in that situation in ways I never could have imagined. That still to this day, whenever I think back to it, whenever I'm trying to do hard things, it helps me to remember that no, God has this. God has this. He's taking care of you. So anyway, one of the main things that I learned through that experience is that every day whenever I would wake up, I felt like I had to make a choice. Like, am I going to be a shell of a person? Am I just going to go through the motions, or am I going to truly live? And every day I felt like I would have to decide, and I would decide, no, I'm going to get up and live. I'm going to get up and live. And so I realized as I was doing this that we all make that choice. Like, I've been making that choice, either to just go through the motions or to live. We all make it every day. I just didn't realize. And some days I wasn't making it. And so that was my takeaway from my sweet girl's life, was that, I want to choose to live, and I want to choose to help other people truly live too, and not just go through the motions.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And I'm sorry. And, and I know that you and I, we know that it's hard to say like everything happens for a reason, because that makes like the hard things seem really, really complicated. And we don't know the answers, but I do know, and I've seen through your journey that you've come out stronger on the other side, with a much more clear purpose. Excuse me. Is this what really spawned your moving into the coaching realm and pursuing that full time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. A couple of things. One, I saw the impact that her life had in 3 days. It was, and obviously it was also while I was pregnant, people knew, but people that did not even know me, that didn't know her. There were so many people that felt connected to us and that would reach out and were praying. And I just saw so much impact from our situation on other people, even complete strangers, that it was amazing. And I just thought, wow, she served such a huge purpose in 3 days. And then it made me think about myself, hello, step into your purpose,
right.
Do it, go for it fully, for real, don't quit holding back, And so, so that was a big part of it. And also, whenever there's tragedy or something big happens like that, I mean, you're kind of stripped of all of your outside, your persona or whatever, you're just really humbled and you're very vulnerable and open. And I think that, that like was such a powerful experience for me because, I was able to just kind of like drop everything and just be really real and raw. And so that helped me to just realize that, okay, just go for it,
Yeah, it's kind of like the little things fall to the wayside because you've already seen the big things. You've done the hard things. So it makes it more clear that, like you said, the perfectionism isn't necessary, but the action is necessary. So I do think that that's really, really crucial to your story and your journey. And so what do you focus on with the coaching?
So it's exactly that actually. And that's why that experience was so powerful, is that I work with these amazing goal-oriented women that believe that they were created for great things. But the problem is that they feel stuck, frustrated, overwhelmed. They feel like life is just passing them by, and it's because perfectionism is robbing them of realizing their God-given potential. So,
I'm writing that quote down.
Okay. But yeah, and that's what's happening. And so I help them go from trapped in perfectionism, to taking imperfect action. That's the main thing that we focus on. So that's what we do. And, it's so crazy because I've experienced it obviously myself. But as I help clients experience it, whenever you start taking imperfect action, you give God something to work with. And whenever you just stay stuck, I mean, you're not like, I think that we all want to make everything, we want to do everything perfectly, and we want to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row before we take action. And,
right.
But whenever we do that, we're relying on ourselves, right?
Yes.
So, whenever we say, okay, like, I'm just going to take imperfect action, I'm just going to go for it, then we're relying on God and we're giving him something to work with. So
that is so good and so true. And it wraps up what I tell people constantly, that we don't have to have it all together. We don't have to it doesn't have to look pretty. We just have to relinquish control. Mm-hmm. And I know that was part of my journey. And that was the biggest thing that I discovered over time, was all these years I was sitting back, thinking like, okay, God, what do you want to do with me? What do you want to do with me? But I never turned it over to him.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, I love that when we take imperfect action, we give God something to work with. I think that's amazing.
Absolutely. And it's so funny because, I was there too, that kind of in the same place. And sometimes even now I have to coach myself in this, because sometimes whenever we give it completely over to God, it can be a little bit scary where he's going to take us, I mean, what's he going to ask me to do now?
Yeah. But, it's also kind of like, refreshing, because it's like, I don't have to have all the answers. I don't have to know it all. I just have to say yes. And it kind of relieves a burden from your shoulders.
It does.
So what types of and I love that there are like so many more women stepping into the personal development realm, because forever it was Zig Ziglar and all the men, which I do credit Oprah to being the first forefront runner of women being in personal development. But what types of women come to you, other than, just being stuck, but like, demographics and backgrounds and careers? Like, what type of women come for your services?
So I think perfectionism is something that actually is what trips us up in almost any goal, actually. I mean, if we're tripped up at all, it's usually perfectionism. And that's even with weight loss and whatever else. And I still can help people in that realm with my background. But most of the women that I am working with right now are either kind of pre-entrepreneurs that are thinking about starting their own business, but are still scared, are still kind of overwhelmed, don't know the first steps, just kind of in that sticky space where they're like, I'm scared to quit my job, but I have this dream, right? So I work with those people, and also other women entrepreneurs that are already in business but are scared to put themselves out there, are scared to go to the next level and take the next step. So, it's I don't only work with entrepreneurs, but that seems to be who I'm attracting right now.
Well, I think it's a mentality that the entrepreneurs they're already thinking outside of the box. They see that there's a better way. They see that it doesn't have to be traditional business. And so I think that's why so many entrepreneurs are in the personal development arena and, showing up at the conferences, because it's that whole like ownership versus employee mentality. So, and it is taking ownership of your life when you go on this personal development journey. So I think that's probably why you see that, because they're already in that headspace. And how long do you typically, like when because you specialize in strategic intervention coaching, is that right? Okay. And tell me like what strategic intervention coaching means.
It's a type of coaching that is taught. It's Robbins Madonna's training. That's the training I did. So like it's Tony Robbins, Chloe Madonna's, they came up with this coaching program. And so it's kind of a mesh of their work. She is she's a big figure in relationships and family therapy. And obviously everybody knows who Tony Robbins is. At least most everybody does. So,
have you walked on the
Oh, I have not. I so want to though.
My girlfriend, Kristen Brown, that I interviewed a couple of episodes back with the Happy Hour Effect, she just did her first like Tony Robbins conference a couple of months ago, and she walked on the poles, and she was like, it was like the most like spiritually like invigorating, physical act she's ever done. So I'm like, that's on my bucket list. Like we need to go walk on.
Yes, that's amazing. Together. I want let's go together. Let's do that. Let's make that happen. Yeah.
So when you do this coaching, you do it in a one-on-one basis. So you take on clients individually. And how long do you walk through the proverbial fire?
Okay. So usually, I usually work with people over a span of about 12 weeks. That's usually about the time. During that time, we start with mindset. We start with thoughts, because it's all about what's between the ears, right? So we start there. And, a lot of times as perfectionists, my clients are overwhelmed. They're exhausted from trying to run the world, because they're trying to do everything on their own. They don't delegate anything, right? Yeah. So, so we have to get some space, in their lives to really start to work. So there's a lot that kind of goes on in that first phase. And the next thing is, some people already kind of have this idea of what their purpose is. I personally believe that everybody knows, like on some level, what their purpose is. It's just that we kind of bury it and deny it. Right. Yes. So some people have already kind of uncovered that, but are afraid to take the next step. And then some people still have that buried. So it kind of depends on if we have to bring that out or if it's already there. So that's kind of the first step. And then the second step is that we create an action plan. And it's an action plan that has what I like to call better goals. I feel like perfectionists a lot of times either set goals that are so big they're not attainable because we want to do everything perfectly, or we set goals that are just busy work because it feels really good to check the box on the list. Yeah. Yes. So what I help them do is, after we know their purpose, I help them create a plan that basically simplifies it to a few things that really matter and that have real impact. And then the third part of the coaching that I help with is basically helping them as they take imperfect action. So I kind of hold their hand and help them when they get stuck as they do the action plan, because it's usually some things that are a little bit uncomfortable, but leave them feeling like super brave, super strong, and free, whatever they actually do step into it.
Yeah. Don't you feel like in any space whatsoever, once we get comfortable, like that's the first sign that we're probably not fulfilling our purpose?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you need to be constantly doing something that gets you out of your comfort zone to really truly step into your it's really easy to stay comfortable, man. I stayed comfortable for like 10 years. And it was easy there and it was good there, but I wasn't making an impact, on not on anyone. I mean, I was taking care of my family and loving them, but the bigger purpose was definitely not being pursued. So I think that's why your message and my message just line up so well with each other. And the crazy part is, you didn't have any clue what I brought to the table, and I didn't have any clue what you brought to the table before we, met up and heard each other's spill. And I was like, oh, okay, God, this is why I've been brought
Yeah, right. It's like he knows what he's doing or something.
Yeah. I know. I tell it's so funny because on this journey, like I kept, in the beginning, I would be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, guess who I just ran into? And everything was this, it amazed me and blew my mind that, I met this person that was connected to this person. And now it's like, I'm not surprised at all. I just give him like a little wink and I'm like, well done, God. Well done.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think that's that's another big part of like the change and the shift in me over the last few years is that before I would see things as just a coincidence or just totally miss them altogether. And like now I totally see how things line up. And whenever things happen to me, I'm like, oh, like that was God. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, it's so beautifully orchestrated. Yeah, it's so beautifully orchestrated. So let's tell people where they can find you and anything, if they want to be a client, if they want to join your book club, just give them all the goods.
My website is coachingwithkayla.com. And if you go there, I have a freebie on the homepage. It's 3 things to do when you feel stuck. It's just a simple cheat sheet, nothing that's going to overwhelm you because perfectionists do not need to be overwhelmed, right? But if you're feeling stuck, go there and grab that. And then I'll be able to connect with you. And, if you want to connect further, like I can totally, we can make that happen. Or you can also check out my Facebook page, which is also coachingwithkayla.com. And I have a book club for personal development books, which I think is kind of the foundation of a lot of this. There's so much that you can get from books. But just like myself, it's like I believe that reading and doing seminars and stuff like that is super important. But sometimes it's seriously just one question from a coach that changes your life. But I think personal.
What book are you reading
right now? We are reading, it's called Make It Happen by Laura Casey. Surrender your fear, take the leap, live on purpose. And this is my second time reading it. This book really did change my life. So that's why I chose it.
I'm putting that on the list and I need to join the book club. What's your favorite personal development book?
Ooh, it's got to be Jim Rohn. Yeah, Jim right. Rohn. If I have to pick just one, I will pick kind of the bigger one, which is Leading an Inspired Life. And actually, if you go to the homepage on my website, in the picture, like I have that book with me, so because it's my favorite.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, so we've covered the Facebook page, covered the website, and the book club. Do you have any other social media outlets? Okay. All right. So you're still a hardcore Facebook girl,
Yeah, it's like I know, like I don't really know how to do Instagram. So like
right. It's complicated, man. It's complicated and you got to keep up with the millennials who know how to do it. And just hire you like a 17-year-old girl and put her in charge of your Instagram. That's kind of that's where I learned my tricks on Instagram. But I like Instagram because it's such a great personal branding marketing tool. I think it's amazing for that. But I still feel I feel like I'm like in this protected little love bubble over on Facebook.
That's true. Yeah. I'm, like as an introvert, like even like putting myself on social media has like been something that I've, like I said, had to coach myself on. And that's why one of the reasons I love following you is because like you inspire me with this stuff. You totally do. So maybe I will, I'm sure, branch out in the future. But I love the tip about hiring someone to help because that's going to need to happen.
Yeah. It's like, I think Rachel Hollis said, people say, well, I don't know how to do Facebook. I don't know how to do Instagram. And she says, but did you know how to drive before you drove? You can go learn it. You can learn anything. If I can Google and figure out how to get a podcast on the air and connect with people from all over the world for my interviews, then we can all figure out social media.
Oh yeah. It's so funny. I had a client or a call just this week with a client, that was like freaking out because she, didn't want to do social media or Facebook or anything because she felt this pressure to post like 3 times a day. And I'm like, whoa, like, let's just breathe. Let's back it way off and figure out what's doable. Right. But we just put this undue pressure on ourselves and feel like it's such a bigger thing than it really is. It's like, hey, just be social.
Do you follow Jenna Kutcher on her podcast, Gold
Oh,
Digger?
man, yes.
That is single-handedly the most resourceful place for free content and learning tools about navigating the ins and outs of social media and Instagram, and anything you want to know, you can find on her podcast. So I'm going to give her a little plug on that. But I could talk to you forever. I know you and I can like sit here and chit-chat for days. But thank you so much for being on here with us today and sharing. And I need to get you the dates in February for the next retreat, because I'm really looking forward to that. I can't wait for this next one that we're going to do together. So you guys can all find Kayla where she mentioned, and you can also join us at the retreat in February, and I'll be releasing dates later. So thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much, Brandy. You are such an inspiration.
I almost forgot. Hang on. If you were a superhero, what would your superhero name be? And what would be the power that sets you aside from all other superheroes?
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, if I were a superhero, my name would be the Catalyst. And because I am the thing that gets people taking action. Like, I'm the thing that gets people taking action on their goals. So that's my superpower.
That's amazing. I love that. This is one of my favorite things that I ask people. And so I love that. So, all right, the Catalyst. Well, we shall talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandy. You are such an inspiration. And I just love talking with you. And I love watching what you're doing because it's so amazing. It's really awesome.
Thank you so much. All right. I love you too. And
bye.
Talk to you later. I'm telling you guys, I have the best guests. I love everything that Kayla has to say. I really enjoy getting to sit in and listen to her do her coaching in group settings. But if you are interested in doing any one-on-one coaching with Kayla or having her come speak at a retreat or a workshop, you can go find her over at coachingwithkayla.com. You can follow her on Facebook. And I think she's on Instagram, but she's not too terribly savvy with it just yet. However, you can always come join us at the Power Project Retreat in February of 2019. Stay tuned for further details. And in the meantime, you guys, go out and live your best purpose-filled life this week. By the way, have you subscribed and written a review yet? What are you waiting for? Go do it now.